morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Is this where I go to council and get it?
Also as well. Let me keep my grandkids ready, but before you, I cannot get myself together.
Hey there, young lady. You went down here so you could bug me.
Hey, good morning.
Hey, good morning. How are you this morning?
And Rick, I know Kai. Are we stepping up this world?
Right. I really
Crystal.
Or Limoges, or just some Limoges. Oh, pick up your Chinese tires, probably.
On time, all of us.
Oh,
We're starting to listen to you, Mr. Mayor.
for the first time.
Some of us always listen to you.
I know.
Well, you guys got on me last time.
Good morning. We're going to call our meeting to order this morning. We have a long morning this morning, so we'll try to get through it. I'd like to welcome you to our work session this morning, and I would ask, please, if you have cell phones, to turn them off at this time. And we will stand and have have pledge of allegiance by Council Member Wagenhauser, and we have prayer by Council Member Reed.
If you would like to pray with us this morning, would you please remain standing? Dear God of us all, we thank you for another day that you have made, a day that we shall all rejoice and be glad in. We thank you for new mercy, grace, and favor on this day. Lord, we ask you to bless the agenda that has been set before us so that we can make wise decisions based on the city of Madison. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Our work session this morning, the first on our work session is Heritage Tourism Grant, our Main Street Director, Karen Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good morning, Council.
Good morning.
This will be very brief. This is an annual update to our Heritage Tourism Grant agreements, which are budgeted in our budget annually, $8,000 per historic tour organization, heritage tour organization, for a total of $24,000. I renewed this last year with the council at this time, and so it's up for renewal again. At some point, we'll go back and revisit the agreement to see if there are any additional things that the council would desire for the agreement to include, but this is just a standard renewal of the current agreement. And I'll entertain any questions.
Do we actually, Karen, do we actually get, number 3 mentions quarterly reports. Do we actually get reports from all 3 of these organizations?
Since I have been here, we have not received reports. However, I do meet with each of these organizations on a monthly basis. So I do receive kind of updates on what's happening with them in terms of staffing or events, things of that nature. We don't get specific on budget, but I do receive their reimbursement request for the grant, so I'm able to see some of their expenses on that end.
Is the mayor and council comfortable with, I mean, it kind of says we're supposed to be getting them, and
Well, in the past, we've always, Main Street Director have always handled this, and they pretty much know what's going on from each of the institutes.
I could ask for
But
them to provide a written
report.
one-page summary, a written report, so unless you want.
the only reason, I really don't know if they're really necessary or not. However,
It's
kinda
in the
like to
agreement.
follow the rules
Absolutely.
that we have, either change the rules or enforce it, is kind of my thinking, but I don't want to put an undue burden on everybody without any real benefit. I just thought I'd bring it up. When I read that, didn't think we were really getting in the way we were supposed to be. And all three of the contracts are identical in that wording, are they not, I believe?
That's correct. I mean, the quarterly reports they submit to me are financial reports. They're not programmatic reports. And so I receive the programmatic information in person each month when I meet with them.
If the council is fine with the way we currently do it, it's not a peg I want to hang my hat on, so.
Well, I have to say, honestly, if we either, I mean, it would be, we should stick with what we ask for. I mean, I think we try to do that a lot in other contracts and other kinds of agreements that we have with the city. If we say this is what we want you to do. I get that it's loose. I guess that it's $8,000. I mean, for these organizations, I know that's a nice drop in the bucket, and they get to do something with it, especially the smaller ones like the African American Museum. On the other hand, maybe at some point, maybe Karen, you look at it and then revise it to reflect what you are getting from them, as opposed to what we are actually. And if you think that's in conflict, you do say you get quarterly reports, but those are financial or.
Yes, which is what this states, I believe, that they submit detailing the use of the funds before I approve the draw on it.
Right.
So the report they submit does show what expenses they utilize the funds to
Okay.
pay for.
All right. So then I'm confused that Eric asked, do you get quarterly reports? And then you said no, but.
Not quarterly programmatic reports is what I said.
I see.
I get
Okay.
monthly programmatic
Right.
reports, but I get quarterly financial reports.
Well, I guess, the other thing I feel, if you, knowing how that works for you and having done this, if you feel like that everyone is meeting the expectations of the contract that they're signing, then what do you think, Eric and Carrie? I mean, if you,
Mr. Mayor, may I? So you meet with them every month,
Yes, ma'am.
and when you meet with them every month, they talk to you about what they're doing with the funds?
Not specifically with the funds, they're just giving programmatic updates about when they're open, what upcoming programs and projects they have, which kind of explains to me their operations
So
to
that
some
tells-
extent.
Right, so that tells pretty much what they're doing, and then, you said quarterly.
Quarterly, I receive detailed expenses on how the funds are expended. So whether it's, they're able to utilize it for personnel, for administrative operations like their Georgia Power bills, their internet bills.
I'm fine.
I mean,
with
I don't think it would be an issue to have them to share a report with the council if you all would just like to hear from them directly, but.
I'm fine the way it's handled now.
Mr. Mayor,
It sounds like they're doing more than
Mr. Mayor, may I?
Yeah.
Just quickly. Carrie, I agree with you. I think that they're giving the report financially to Karen, and that's her job to manage those.
Yes.
I don't think we need to be, she can report to us if there's a problem. That's the way I see it.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't think reports need to come to the council. I'm content with them going to you, whether it's on a monthly basis or not. It sounds like they're giving us more than I thought they were.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if we could get that put on our consent agenda for our call meeting this morning, everybody could nod for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, council.
Yes,
Mr. Mayor, is that going to go on the regular meeting consent agenda?
we could put it on our consent agenda for this morning. I mean, can't we do that?
No.
Okay, our regular meeting, okay. Thanks, Ms. Robertson. Peak still building Bull Street parking lot.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good morning, everyone.
morning.
Both change orders, number 5 and number 6, deal with soils conditions at the Gateway parking lot, we call it the Bull Street parking. We found some soils issues back when they were doing the grading, and kicked the can down the road a bit. We thought everything was okay, but they ran into some problems which got into their pocket a little bit. essentially, you've got the change order request. It explains what it is. The first one is in the amount of, let me go back to that one, is in the amount of $12,967. And again, you have a bit of a narrative above that, the hour breakdown and kind of what happened. And just as a reminder, the soils they used was what was stockpiled on site from building the pond, the sediment, the retention pond. And some of the soils they took out of there kind of mixed in or layered in. So that was unforeseen. I'm recommending approval of that one. And also, both of these were negotiated. They're slightly less than what they wanted, but tried to be even-handed with Peak. The second one is a bit more, what it gets into is how the soils worked and compacted on the parking lot before the rock went down. They had to add fabric and add rock based on the condition of the soil down there. Rain had something to do with it as well. That change order's a bit more. It's $41,850 after some negotiation, and I'm just recommending so just over $50,000 on over a $500,000 project. This is about 10%, which is typically where I start coming to y'all and saying this happened. The sort of the unfortunate thing is that if you see fit to not approve it, I don't know what I'm going to do because the work's been done. It's one of these that typically change orders are done before the fact. They are choices, they are options that the owner has. In this case, they're a little bit behind after the fact. I don't like that very much, but we are where we are. We've been given the choice, and we had to work through some things, I think we would have gotten to the same place. We just didn't know how it was going to work out until the very end. So I'm just trying to be fair to the contractor. They've used subs. I don't doubt that they've run into cost increases. So I'm recommending approval of change orders 5 and 6 for the parking lot. And if you've seen it, it's getting there. They've got to put a top layer and do the striping. We got to put lighting down there. The city has installed a wet well for the pump station that will service the buildings along the front, plus any multifamily or anything behind the warehouse building. That was installed a couple of days ago, so we're moving ahead. I'll answer any questions if I can.
Are there any questions? I think this is probably understandable, so we could get a consent, a nod to put this on our consent agenda for our meeting in May. Thank you. Betsy, you can. We don't need, we can't wait now. Just get a consent from the council
Oh, consent.
to put on our consent agenda
Yeah,
for May.
oh, perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, gotcha.
Thank you so much.
I just had a term I wasn't familiar with, proof roll pumping. What does that mean?
Proof roll is when you get a street or a parking lot or anything that you want to test compaction. Rather than doing spot checks on compaction by soils engineers, which they did. They had grounded engineering down there to look at this, and they got recommendations. But you fully load a tandem axle dump truck, and you actually roll it through the project. And if it's soft, when you see the ground move, it's called pumping. That means that it's soft from the ground and it goes on down. Typically what they have to do is undercut it and either add more rock or put better soils in and compact that back down. But a proof roll is the best way to determine what the compaction is and what the condition is for the subsurface or what's called a base, not the base layer, because base is GAB or gravel. The sub base or the soil is what you build a street on. And if it's not right, then everything else will fail, at least in that area. So there were areas that they had some pumping. It wasn't bad. I personally witnessed the test proof roll. The city always, especially on projects where the city owns it or a street that's going to be dedicated, such as the last one we did was Foster Park Lane. where you have to watch. Typically, wide open areas are no problem because they're easy to compact, but around structures such as manholes, sewer manholes, or storm manholes, sometimes they can, because they're hard to pack. So,
And I think, David, our Main Street director put out an email either yesterday or maybe this morning, talking about Madison Fest and
Yes.
the parking lot being
Yes.
open and ready.
yes.
That is the case?
Yes,
It's ready?
they've contractors fine with it. They've not turned that parking lot over to us, but it's in a condition to where it's certainly okay to park vendor vehicles down there. So we're gonna get some use out of it already.
Yeah. It's
Great.
It looks
good
really
timing.
good. It's gonna come together, once they'll do all the final gradings, seeding and strawing down there. And then the striping will be done, signage, and then the city will move right in and put the lighting. Lighting, we have it on the yard, we're ready to put it in, 10 solar-powered lights for that parking lot. To kind of be our first real foray into that. But it's
Nice.
coming together.
Awesome.
So Karen, are you instructed the vendors to park down there, or they know to park down there?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Colleen has already shared that messaging with vendors.
Good deal, good, thank you. Okay, Mr. Nam, you ready for your,
If anything comes up between now and the meeting, just let me know. I'll be glad to go down there with you and show you what's going on.
thank you, David.
Great.
You ready to do your report?
Oh, my report?
Yes, sir.
Let me grab a copy. Just flip throughs. I try to remember most things that we're moving through. LMIG, or Local Maintenance and Improvement Grant for city streets. I'm real proud of the way that streets came together this time. The East Coast Grading was our contractor, and they did a nice job on resurfacing streets. The next round is coming up pretty quickly. What was just done, kind of a delay in that for some reason, and I'm hoping that the paving contractor, the low bidder, will be a little more to get on it quicker. So we're going to enforce, if we say 120 days or 180 days or whatever, we're going to enforce that and a little more strictly. So we'll get that done at least in the calendar year and not let it creep all the way around till next year. So, but the 2022, if I have that right, 2022 LMIG is what we're opening bids on right now. It's the current budget year. We're opening bids at 10 o'clock this morning at City Hall. And we've got a good bit of interest, the normal pavers, so hopefully we'll get some good prices and things will probably be up some, because asphalt is based on, petrochemicals, so I'm sure the cost will be up some, and we'll get that done. I don't have the list of, let's see. Trying to see if I had the list of streets. I don't see them right away, but if anybody needs a reminder, we'll get that done. As far as sidewalks, we've done a lot of repairs of late. We did, as I probably reported earlier, we got the East Jefferson Street sidewalk complete. It turned out really well. We put a rail down at the creek crossing, piped some of the ditch down that pretty bad drop off down around Jefferson. I can't remember the name of the apartments down there, Jefferson Villas or Jefferson Ridge, thank you. And that section turned out to be nice. We tied it in with the existing sidewalk up by the Housing Authority, so that's done. But
A lot of curbing, too.
a lot of curbing. That job had a lot of curbing in it. And we also did curbing on the other side of the street where the slope was pretty extreme, and we had a ditch section, and the water didn't always get in the ditch very well, so we did some curbing and backfilling. So Aaron and the sub and his guys have done a nice job We've moved around some and done a lot of repairs in Valley Farms. We got a lot of that done from tree roots pushing up. We've done some repairs on East Avenue and also on College Drive. We're moving to some other neighborhoods. Now we've got toe kicks and panels pushed up. We're gonna get some of that done. Most recently, and this is getting into a little bit of some of the stormwater, because you all are familiar with the Candle Lane, the flooding, periodic flooding down at the bottom of Candle Lane, where we successfully added 36-inch pipe to an existing catch basin down there to help relieve that street flooding. We're getting it to the creek. There is the current issue of a downstream pipe that is on private property, but we are going to overwhelm that. So Councilmember Joyce and I, he's of course a resident there, we've talked to the property owner, I've talked to the contractor, know the costs, but a compromise to get it all done in that is that the property owner, I think, has agreed to pay for the pipe about $12,000 to $14,000, I guess, somewhere in that neighborhood. And if the city will then install that 60-inch pipe, pull out the old pipe and put the new in, then we feel like that pipe will then have the capacity to take the new, the 48 and the 36 that we added. Believe it or not, Wayne Gann, the utility superintendent, actually did the calculations or looked them up. A 60-inch pipe will carry more water than a 36 and a 48. So the capacity downstream is actually going to be slightly more, or at least equal to, so we're not constricting. So I don't know that really needs a formal council action. I would ask that you consent so that we can go ahead and get pipe ordered for that job. It may be 4 to 6 weeks out, but the risk we run is that we have another big rain that our system successfully handles, but downstream it's constricted by a pipe that's too small. So unless you have major concerns.
I think you probably offer the same services to the
We have.
residents who live on Hidden Hills and
We have.
Terrace Drive. If they bought the pipe, the city will
The city will
install
work
it,
with them to
which I thought
install.
was fair.
That's right.
Yeah,
You
thank
know?
you for mentioning that. It's the same situation in Belmont Street as well. So there's a real historic precedent for the city kind of sharing with private owners. They buy the pipe, we install it. There's a precedent for that being done.
The distinction on this one is that it is in a free-flowing, I'm saying this too loud, free-flowing stream. This pipe down to 80 feet downstream was added, not by the city. It wasn't done, it was done by a private property owner. It improved the lot because the back corner was the creek, so they wanted more yard. So that was done. We are where we are. So I think to tie that whole project up to get it back to where it needs to be, or at least as much as we can do, I'd recommend doing that. And if everybody's okay with it, we'll move ahead. The contractor has let me know that an estimate is somewhere around $15,000 to install the pipe.
I don't think the council will have any problem with doing that, so you can move ahead. And while you're talking about that, I think all our council did receive a letter from Bab and Hiram Johnson commending Aaron Tewksbury for the great job they're doing down on Candle Lane. I thought that was really nice.
Nice letter.
Nice, very nice letter.
recognition. Just to talk a little bit more about Candle Lane, the engineers are surveying the area. We've had more conversation about other existing structures, other issues down there with groundwater, whether it's draining in the street, all the issues down there. We're trying to get at the whole condition, to see if there are any minor or major improvements that can be made. We're trying to figure out what all is contributing to the different things. Because, but the other thing I want to do is when they get that report back and when they let us know what, maybe recommendations, maybe existing conditions, is to have a meeting with all the residents all at one time. Because my conversations typically happen one at a time, so people can't benefit from, you know, we fixed in one problem, but there's equal and opposite reaction. So that's going to be the downstream issue. But I think we're going to handle that. But you know, there are lots of ideas about cause and effect and repairs and remediation. And I want to get everybody in one room and clear the air and just say, you know, this is what we're looking at and this is what we can do and maybe what you can do.
Yeah, we're all experts down there.
Lots of civil engineers on the county. More per capita than anywhere else on earth.
Remarkable, really.
It is quite. City Hall, if you hadn't been through, Karen and I walked through Wednesday, with our regular bi-monthly meeing, and we meet twice a month, whatever that means, bi-monthly, twice a month. You could see the slates going back on the roof. Those guys, those roofers don't play. I looked around once and there was nothing, and then this side over here is about completely done. So they're doing a fantastic job. They move out. You also see some bright new copper flashing up there, so you see a lot of where the public money is going. So those are very long-term investments. That copper is the best you can do, and it's not extravagant, but it looks good and it works well, and it'll serve the building for a long time. Next week they'll start repairing brick on the outside, and you also see a lot of site work start in the next week or so. They'll take up the asphalt in the alley on the other side, and then they'll grade along the High Street side to facilitate and to allow for a sidewalk to go in on that side. There'll be a sidewalk level with the street that will allow access pretty much all the way around the building. You won't have to walk out in the street to get to the side entrance. And so look for that. Yes?
For any architectural geeks out there, so that is the original slate that was already on there.
Yes.
It was mined or quarried from Buckingham, Virginia. It's got a 300-year lifespan, so
Wow.
we're only 80 years into it, so it's good to reuse it.
We're 25% of its life, and whatever they've needed, they've been able to source. So, and actually, when I first came to work for the city, we needed a couple of pieces replaced on that roof, and we were able to buy the same size and same type, color, and quality of Buckingham slate. And I can't even remember where we bought it. We had 10 or 12 pieces that I had bought left over in the mezzanine. You know, we'd moved it around from place to place. So thankfully, we were able to source it again. And so it's same material, same quarry, same thing. The gas line, the Bostwick gas line project bids open. The bids are currently, and the bidder is currently being evaluated. It's a new company. The engineer and I and the city attorney are going to be evaluating that to find out if that bidder is a responsible and responsive, which I think is what the law allows. You can't just, because a company doesn't have the experience, you can't just throw them out for that. There's got to be there's got to be a method behind the way you choose and not choose. I don't know that since I've been here, we've ever had to reject a bid because of this issue. But for a project that's going to be over $1 million in the gas department, the largest single project the city's ever done money-wise, then unless we're sure that this is the right contractor, and if there are deficiencies or if there's something that's not in order, we're not going to use them. And we will document it, and we will justify it, and we will let them know, and then we'll move on. And we won't have to rebid it. We'll move to the second low bid, which is about 5,000 a million is 0.005%. It's about 50,000 more in $1 million project. So, last thing, I already talked about the Gateway parking lot, Bull Street parking lot, pump stations going in down there. And I didn't put anything about Hill Park, but I know the architect's working on tweaking the plans for the bathrooms, the restrooms down there, which I think the pickleballers would really appreciate. And hopefully we can keep that one moving in the right direction. I'll answer any questions.
Let me ask you this, what's our city policy on people going and hitting potholes and want the city to fix their cars? I didn't thought the city fixed their cars if they hit a pothole, but we got our attorney here, David, you could probably explain that to us too, because people's call.
It's not cut and dried. Typically, when they make a claim, whether it's a formal or an informal claim, I immediately go out and look at it. We have paid for them in the past where, in my opinion, it was an egregious, where we had opened usually it's like a manhole, and in this case, and I think this is the one you're referring to, there's a manhole that it's not a pothole, it's just the manhole is down. In this case, it was about 1.5 inches. It was about the width of my business card, and I went out and looked at it. I looked at the claim, and the type, and it's this. You have to consider this as well. The type of tire and wheel was probably that same hole has been hit hundreds of times in that neighborhood, but this person had low profile, very large alloy or cast or whatever you call them wheels. He hit it and he cracked his rim. It's something that I did not think that the city was either negligent or aware of until it came up. We did go out and immediately put cold patch. We patched it, and when the owner of the car called and said, well, why did you patch it? And it says, because I don't want you to tear up another wheel. You may be the only one that tears anything up. But the city can't, I don't think, and the cost of it didn't factor into my decision, okay? The fact, whether it was a $400 claim, in this case it was much more than that, and that's neither here nor there. The city would have paid it, but I didn't think it was reasonable when the city wasn't aware that this was going, couldn't know that it was going to happen. It just simply was a road hazard. His type of tire, his type of car, hit it, cracked the rim, and maybe the police officer said, I think you got a claim. I wish the police hadn't said that, but, leave that up to, we have a frame of reference, and we have kind of the goalposts that we look at. We've paid some and others we haven't. It's just a case-by-case basis.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
he meant insurance claim.
Excuse me?
He probably meant insurance claim, not a claim to the city, because that would be covered under his auto insurance.
It could be. It could be. I'm not certain about that. I mean, we have all kinds of claims. I'm sure that if the police went out there, he documented it. But he did. He called, and I initially had a call. A young lady brought in the information, and I always tell them to let us know all of it, and if they want to make a claim to the city, because the city has no insurance. We wouldn't be covered for anything like this. But we're not going to let that condition stay there if it caused any problems for anybody. We didn't know about it. It's like a limb falling out of a tree or anything else. Somebody hits it the wrong way. I remember somebody tore up a tire out here right on this curb because the curb jutted out and there was a little point. And they were pulling a trailer and they hit that and tore up a tire and said, well, you need to fix it. And I said, we can't. The city can't be responsible for everything. It's a kind of a tough call because, it's a unique type of equipment that possibly is more susceptible to damage and things that other tires are not. I went out that day and looked at it, took a picture with my business card in that. It was low, as many manholes are that have been, the asphalt's been pulled out. And, but I would dare say many other cars and tires have hit that over time, because it wasn't just freshly dug out. It had been dug out a long time. So that was my determination.
Mr. Mayor, Mick,
Yes, sir.
I just want to clarify, when I said insurance claim, it would be on his car
His car.
insurance claim,
Not
not on the
city's.
city's.
Yeah.
I was not inferring that at all.
Okay.
And
I guess
Thank you.
it's considered road hazard. It's something that we didn't foresee, but when we had knowledge of it, then we don't want it to happen to anybody.
Right. Thank you, sir. That are my questions for Dave.
Thank
I
you.
had one quick one, David. A citizen asked me the other day about the status of the Adrian's move. I know we talked about the grease trap issues and the parking lots. The parking lot's now done. Can you update us on when that transfer is going to take place?
I think the package store is within the next, I think they're doing concrete work down there now, flat work around the building. And I think that'll facilitate, and the parking lot will happen, it can probably happen in a couple of days as far as the top layer and the striping. But as far as Adrian's, that's, again, that is DDA. I sit in on a lot of those meetings, but, and Peak Steel, who is going to finish that, is going to do it, but I don't know that DDA has set a new drop dead date on that. 3-4 months possibly, that's just a guess.
And I think maybe Monica Worko to give a report this morning, and she's
September.
at a conference, so she's going to be on our agenda at our next regular meeting, and she can probably give us an update then.
All right, thank you.
I think it's going to be moving ahead. I think folks will see a little bit more site work down there. Like I said, the flat work, the concrete around the building, grease trap will go in, the plumbing. They've got to put there's a porch on the railroad end where it's a slab and it's a covered porch area for outside seating. I'm going to trade with Peak for some final site work to grade Bull Street down up next to the railroad. That is eventually going to be an improved kind of a service road around all those buildings. And while they're in there and before they move out, and so that we don't have to get in there, someone else, after they've done their job, I'm going to ask them to do that and put some gravel down. So folks will see a lot more activity. The package store will move in within the next month. I think they've been cleared. I think all their refrigeration issues, equipment issues have been done. I think they're very close to starting to move equipment, product over to the new building.
Okay, thanks.
Mr.
Just stay
Mayor,
where you are.
Can I,
Sure.
let me, one point, Eric, you and I were at the DDA meeting this month. Ben has talked to Monica about getting a firm date on moving in. So, right, she was going to do that, and they were hoping end of July, maybe 1st of August, but they want to get a commitment from Peak Steel that it will be done on a certain day. So that's what they're working on.
Okay.
Hopefully fairly soon, I hope.
Thank you. Good. While you're there, Dave, we want to talk about utility fee increase. And can you tell us when the last time we had an increase in our utility?
Mr. Mayor, the last increase on water and wastewater was a scheduled or a planned increase based on the bond issue for the waste treatment plant. It's been, that schedule appears in the annual audit, and I've not looked recently, but I think it's been at least 15 years. So 2010, okay, 12 years.
Okay. So will this council be in agreement to give our city manager the authority to do a feasibility study to see what it would cost to do this? Would the council have a problem with that?
Not at all. Good idea.
The first step would be to select a consulting engineer to do they may call it something else, but it's a rate study for water and wastewater, a cost of services analysis that will determine what the correct and what the up-to-date connection fees and tap fees are for, and meter fees for connection. And then they'll look at the ready-to-serve charges, which we haven't adjusted in a very long time. They'll look at probably sprinkler fees, hydrants, everything, every source and every point of revenue within water and wastewater will be studied. But we'll get started on trying to get a request for qualifications out to do that study.
Okay, so do we need to put the thought out of consent agenda?
I
Can
don't,
we just
I
have the
don't think,
authority
I
to
think
do
the
that?
next formal action with the council would be when the staff recommends a engineer
Mhm.
and they bring forward a proposal or scope of work. It's gonna have a dollar sign
Mhm.
attached to it. It won't be insignificant. Those studies are quite comprehensive. They take some time to do. So, it'll be not terribly expensive when you consider what the rate increase, the importance of it, and then how much it will generate over time. It is something that is well worth the time in the study to make sure the city's rates and its fees are in line.
Okay, thank you.
We can get started on that.
If I may.
Sure.
What's the kind of ballpark time frame on that, from getting it up rolling, getting through the study and then
Get
coming up with a
get the
recommendation?
RFQ together, just getting the language, getting it advertised, getting it out on I think putting it out on the state procurement portal will get it out to a lot of folks, making some calls to the ones. I think we can get started in the next couple of weeks on writing that up. The getting RFQs in after that initial ad or notice goes out, probably 30 days or something. So and then once you trade with them, then they will help you determine how long the study's going to take. So you're talking possibly 6 months before they'll have anything back, but you could have something back easily, I think, within the calendar year.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Appreciate it. Karen, my budget presentation, and as I say to our council each year, as our finance person give us a presentation for our budget, it's just a presentation, and if you have questions that you would like to talk to Karen about, I urge you to please go to her office and talk to her after the presentation this morning. Karen?
Good morning. Okay, I have passed out your fiscal year 2023 budget notebook, and so I'm just going to review the various sections in it and highlight on some areas. So your first tab is your trends and analysis. This provides you with a 10-year history on revenue, expenses, fund balances, as well as operating indicators for various departments, and the millage and property tax history. In the millage rates, it includes the city, county, and Board of Education's. So under tab 2 is your schedule of transfers. This is a good practice to have to justify your transfers from your enterprise funds to your general fund. And so this will give you a % for each department that we transfer out of the enterprise funds into the general fund. Under tab 3 is your SPLOST and T-SPLOST schedules. SPLOST 5 is now through. We used the last funds for the City Hall renovation. And so SPLOST 5 it'll go away, and then we'll just be working out of 6 and 7, and then also T-SPLOST. The only funds remaining in SPLOST 6 is for the Hill Park restrooms. And then SPLOST 7 and T-SPLOST is what we are currently collecting revenue for.
T-Splosh isn't going to last till June of 2024, is it not? We're going to hit the dollar cap.
No, sir, I've had a conversation with the finance director at the county, and it will probably sunset, and we'll probably have 1 year left of it, and it'll
Wow.
sunset in 1 year. And so they're talking about how to proceed after that.
Do they intend to renew the tax or have a referendum? to do
It'll
that?
have to be a referendum on the election.
But I would suspect that they would back the date up to where there won't be a lapse. In other words, you don't, and I think, in my humble opinion, is some of the smartest tax money we can do is to help with our infrastructure. We're doing a lot more paving and a lot more stuff than we ever could think about. And I would hope that the voting public would recognize that T-Splost is smart for us. It's keeping our local sales tax money very local. I mean,
Yes.
you get to ride on what you spend. But I would hope that they would back the date up. And Karen, you know when that election would be, possibly, or did she tell you that?
More than likely, it'll be on the November.
November
election.
ballot.
And we've also talked about getting signs to put up for when we pave roads to notify the public that that is what's paying for their road to be paved as T-Splost.
And I think sidewalks alone, it seems like the pace of our sidewalk repair and everything has really picked up in the last year or so. Would you attribute that to T-Splost revenues?
Well, I mean, it's good to have the money to do all these projects. When regular resurfacing of streets is a bit easier because it's a task performed by many vendors and the prices are competitive. Sidewalk work in the concrete world is more about supply and demand of skill, and in the last projects we've tried to bid out on open bids have just been exorbitant. They've been way more costly than I felt was justified. So that's the reason we're taking a bit slower approach, using a local vendor for that and doing as much as we can when we can. But certainly nice and certainly always good to have the funds ready for that. If we see the opportunity to put a good bit of sidewalk in one area, we certainly can do it.
And you have a more detailed T-Splost schedule in here that lists the various projects that we've earmarked for that money as well. So, under tab 4 is your small equipment. I require all the department heads to list out what they're going to spend small equipment money on. And so this list has all the departments in here and what they're going to spend, as well as under tab 5, you have your capital items, and I do the same for that as well. So under tab 5 with the capital, I'll just point out that this current year, we use SPLOST funds to purchase the police vehicles, which help general fund. But I have put the police vehicles for next year back into general fund to be able to use the remaining SPLOST funds for vehicle purchases to purchase the fire engine. And so those remaining funds in SPLOST will go towards the fire engine to where we will not have to finance it.
I have a quick question. I didn't.
Did you get the email? There was an email sent out, but we'll talk about that.
Oh, I guess I didn't see the email, I'm sorry. Thank you.
It's a little small ticket item.
Okay.
I have a question for the chief. The fingerprint scanner, what does it do?
It's electronically hooked up to the system, so on the side of the road, you can use somebody's fingerprint and get it into the database so they can, into the database more immediately and maybe find out who this person is on the side of the road rather than have to send it off and wait on a response.
Oh, okay,
That's good. Yeah.
okay, cool.
Because now that's the sheriff's office, right?
So would it be passed around between the supervisors, since you're only asking for one? Would it only be used in certain situations where the identity might not be as obvious, or?
Right, it's not every vehicle stop that we're needing to use that, but people who give false name or things like that, it would have to be available for each shift
Okay,
to have access to it, yes.
okay, thank you.
Are the 3 new vehicles to replace 3 or additional vehicles?
Well, the long story short is we've had so much trouble with these Dodge Chargers, and Karen can attest to the maintenance that we've had, or repairs we've had to do to these Chargers, and we're just having to get away from them. I'm driving one and have had no problems with mine, but I'm not, as rough on mine as they have to be when they're out here patrolling, and we're just having to get away from them and get to something that we feel like will be more reliable and be able to keep it on the road and not in the shop getting repairs all the time.
We're not buying any more Dodges.
Correct.
We want the Crown Victorias back, huh?
Yeah. Right. So, now if you flip over in your capital, you will see in SPLOST 7 where there is the fire engine budgeted. I think this is replacing the oldest one that we have that's, David, about 24 years old.
I think that piece of equipment was bought, used, so we've not had it that whole time, but it was already, it was a used piece of equipment. It was fine equipment when we got it, but I think some of the issues are replacement parts. It is a custom-built engine, and they had a real issue with a power steering pump most recently that kept it out of service for like 4 or 5 months because they couldn't find a replacement that would work in that application. But it is a bit long in the tooth.
Also included, another vehicle purchase is in the sanitation department, and that is for a new commercial garbage truck. And this will be financed through our GMA lease purchase program.
The very first, I'm not picking on public art, but there is a $25,000 budget line in for public art. I asked the question, and I think this is for acquisitions, but all of it would be fundraised for. It's not a direct expenditure, because the understanding and the agreement from the council was that most of the acquisitions would come through donations and whatnot.
It
Right.
will,
I was just going to say that Chris Hodges brought that up last year, and it didn't get explained. So when there is something that's going to be purchased from donations, Karen still has to put one line of expenditure, and then elsewhere she puts a line for income. So if you see the two sides, it comes out to zero. But if you just look at expenditure, it looks like the city's spending $25,000.
And he is correct, but I do not budget for donations because it's not guaranteed. And we don't know if those funds, not necessarily for this, but other things, will be raised and collected. And so I don't typically put donation budget amounts in here for it. So, but you will have that expenditure.
And I don't think the committee nor staff would recommend to go out and spend $25,000 on acquisitions on the good faith that the money would come in. This is a one project, one piece at a time, one initiative at a time, that hopefully we could spend that much and raise that much for very worthy initiative across the city.
Right, and so, yes, it won't, the purchase will not happen unless the funds are raised.
If I can ask this though, Karen, if that's the case, and whatever's raised, so for example, I know we budgeted the 25,000, and I did understand that it did come from, even last year, from donations. If we know that we're actually not gonna touch that unless the money is there somehow, how is it, how can we, I mean, I understand you don't wanna kind of put all the eggs in one basket about this, but if we do know that's never gonna come out of general funds, what's the harm in kind of throwing up a donation amount?
Because you do have the option to go ahead and purchase whatever item it is,
Mm-hmm.
even though the funds were not raised.
Right,
And so you can always come back and choose, okay, well, just because we haven't raised the funds, we still think that it's a good idea to go ahead and purchase.
mm-hmm,
So you do have that option, and that's why I put the expense in there.
right,
So I would expect that opportunities often are time-sensitive.
Sure.
You may want to go ahead and front it, and then you do things. I mean,
So there's,
I'm
yeah, there's
just
different
guessing.
situations where you still have the option, you still can go ahead and purchase
right,
whatever item it is. So,
right. Okay.
under tab 6, this is your line item budget. I put a fund total comparative in here to where you can see amongst all the funds that the overall increase is a little over 3.4 million. And then the next page has broken it down into departments. And so you can see which departments have had an increase or a decrease or have remained the same. And so in general fund, the two departments that have increased the most are the police and the street department. And that is mainly for filling vacant positions and capital items. So the overall increase to general fund is about $634,000. And if you flip over, and it starts on page 1, the actual line item budget, the proposed budget for ad valorem taxes currently reflects the adoption of the rollback rate in July. So this is with no anticipation of a property tax increase. This is us adopting the rollback rate in July.
What page are you on? What page are you on?
Page 1, past the first 2 pages, it starts under tab 6.
Bottom right.
Oh,
This is what
keep
it
going.
looks like.
Flip over to, right there.
There you go.
So that is the first line of the budget, is your ad valorem, your property taxes
Gotcha.
for personal and real property.
So your projection, Karen, is that even with this considerable increase, it would still fit within the rollback rate?
Yes. The increase in the property tax, that is for mainly the growth in the digest. The county has just yesterday sent me a updated rollback sheet, and this number aligns with that for the growth in the digest this year. So on down on the first page, right before the bottom, you'll see your sales tax. Our sales tax revenue has increased about, budgeted, I increased it about 180,000 or 19%. And so currently, sales tax revenue is 20% higher than last year at this time. And I've passed out your sales tax analysis report through the end of April that shows the 20.44% increase. So if you flip over to page 6.
Page 6?
Page 6.
Okay.
At the very bottom, you'll see the budgeted fund balance. This represents the revenue shortfall to be able to cover what you're budgeting for expenditures. And so this has decreased about 42,000 from the prior year, so it is going in the right direction. This, or I say the prior year, the current year that we're in. So our budget for this year reflects a shortfall of 710,000. And so this proposed budget is 667,000. So it is decreasing. And so the main revenue increases is the sales tax, TABT has also increased, and the growth in the digest. And as I mentioned, the expenditures, the main ones were in the police department and the street department. I'm going to flip to page 52. That's just past all the general fund expenditures. 52.
Thank you.
This is your hotel motel tax. Revenues are increasing. It's kind of beginning to look like pre-COVID days, which is good. So there is still some minor repairs to the CVB building, and that's included in the hotel motel budget. And so I just wanted to point out that hotel motel tax is looking a lot better than what it has been in the last year or two. So on the next page, page 53, you'll see this is where your SPLOST funds start. And of course, nothing is budgeted for SPLOST 5 because we've expended all the funds for that one. And so SPLOST 6 has the remaining funds for the Hill Park restrooms. And then the difference of that project and what we have in SPLOST 6, SPLOST 7 is going to make up the difference. And so in SPLOST 7, you see there's funds for the renovation, finishing the renovation of City Hall, like I said, the fire engine, some green space acquisition, and the Hill Park restrooms. So on page 56 is the T-SPLOST, as we've gone over, where you have paving money and sidewalk, and we built in some funds for trails and stormwater if need be. And then also the last bit of the machinery funds for a tractor for mowing the right-of-ways. So page 57, this begins your enterprise funds. And so your three enterprise funds, water, sewer, gas, and sanitation, have had increases, and mainly due to capital items. And so your water and sewer fund has increased about $256,000. Your gas fund increased $685,000, and sanitation $425,000. The $425,000 in sanitation is because of the purchase of the commercial garbage truck. So that's about it for the line item budget. Under tab 7, I've given you a reference for the chart of accounts, so you can see the different funds and revenue and expense general ledger numbers to help you review the line item budget. So tab 8, I've also included DDA's budget. since y'all have an intergovernmental agreement to fund some of their projects. So I always have Monica supply me this to put in y'all's budget book. Under tab 9, I always say is the prettiest part of the budget. It's got pictures of all of our city buildings as well as the green space inventory. And I always thank Monica for putting this together for me, and she does a wonderful job doing that. So as y'all are reviewing, if you have any notes or questions, I've also, on the last tab, that's a section where you could just write some notes or questions that you have. And then that's about it.
Nice job. Thank you.
Is this all going to be on the test?
Yes, every single bit. In the front of your binder book, I've also included the budget calendar. So you have, of course, these are all regular scheduled meetings. So in May, on your regular, if there's any questions, I'm going to have to make an adjustment to the budget because next week y'all discuss the American Recovery Plan funds, and that is currently not in this budget. And so after that discussion, then I will add that to this budget. It'll need to be added.
If we want to have some influence on the budget, I know you got your calendar here, but to come in and speak with you as the mayor suggested, when do we need to do that to get it in time for the next, I guess, the next budget work session on the 9th? Prior to that?
Any time between now, yes, and May 9th.
Okay. All right.
Don't we have a call meeting on May 9th?
Thursday morning.
Thursday.
It's Thursday.
Yeah. Regular meetings.
And that,
I have
and,
my calendar here.
Yeah.
It's Thursday.
and that's when we'll discuss the American Recovery Plan funds. And then you have a public hearing on June 3rd at 8:30 in the morning. And that is your normal work session morning. So there'll be a called meeting for that.
Thank you for this budget presentation. Now, I think you was going to mention something that maybe our city manager were concerning this fire engine that we talked about. Are there any urgencies, Mr. Manager, or any
I'm sorry, about regarding.
fire engine?
No, you got Chief Pennington's report on that. That's a lot of background information on justification and whatnot, and the opportunity to procure that piece of equipment, which again is a very, very long-term asset. I've always found it difficult to tell the fire department no on anything, but they've not put me in a position to where it makes it tough. They don't ask for a whole lot until they really need it. Again, we talked about the 011, I think is what they call it, that is the oldest truck, and it's probably the best time to start talking about replacing something is really before you get in a serious ditch with it. We thought that, and we have issued, or the manufacturers issued a letter of commitment to hold this piece of equipment's being manufactured as we speak, and it'll be available later in the year. And we're not obligated, not legally obligated, but we thought that we would handle that all through the budgeting process, that if the mayor sees fit to purchase that, then we will just budget for it, and we will do the paperwork as we procure any other piece of equipment. So we're not talking about borrowing for it right now. We've got the advantage, and we're very fortunate to be able to pay for it and not have any interest or carry cost with that for a 20-year asset, at least 20 years.
So I guess then you would give it to fire chief and let him know to go ahead.
Yes, I told him a day or two ago that if the council was favorable, or if there were more nods up and down than the other way, that I would let him know. I think he's going to look at a piece of equipment similar to this. Chief Pennington is very, he's very detailed, he's very dedicated, so he's going to get in his vehicle and drive and look at this, make sure it's what they want before a hard commitment's made, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. Thank you, David.
All right, is everybody
Appreciate
okay
that.
with that?
On the council.
Everybody
That's
okay
awesome.
with that,
Good.
with that process? Good, thank you.
Yeah.
The amount of use that they get out of these things, it's definitely needed. Thank you, David.
Appreciate it.
And as always, just if y'all have any questions, concerns, just come see me. Okay.
Very nice.
Very nice. Chief, you have anything, you were with us this morning, that was it, you just wanted to visit us this morning, is there anything that you want to say to us?
Well, if I could have just a second, I'll take it. Good morning. Just to kind of let the council know where we are, you know, y'all been great to us as far as salaries and things like that to help our police department, but we're still understaffed. We recently had one of our officers that we hired recently leave us because he said he just can't support his family on what he's making here. And as y'all all know, we're growing. We're over 5,000 residents in the city limits of Madison now, and we're looking at more subdivisions being built. We're looking at possibly Rivian coming and bringing in a lot of people here. I believe I'm right in saying this, that back in 1998, we had 2 officers pretty much patrolling at any given time the streets of Madison, and that's still where we are. But we're growing. We're having a hard time right now still filling vacancies. We're too short, and we're needing to increase. And looking down the road, like you're talking about equipment, you know, we need to look at things before we're behind the 8 ball, and you know, we need more officers, and we're just now trying to hire them. But just to kind of make the council aware, we're needing to kind of look at things and see what we can do maybe in the future to hire and retain good police officers. You know, we try to keep our standards high, hire good people that we feel like are a good fit for Madison. So, you know, we've turned down a lot of applications because they don't meet our criteria. So just to kind of give council heads up that, you know, in the near future, we need to kind of be looking at where our department is and where we need to go. One other quick thing, I hope I'm not out of line, but I'd like to publicly thank David Nunn for almost 10 years that I've been working here for the support that he's given me and the police department. He's been great to work for, and I thank him for all the support that he's given us, and he's been a great city manager, and I wish him the best and appreciate all he's done for us.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate that.
Just one, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, I know we've got a lot to do this morning. Just one quick thing, and we'll let the council know that we're going to look at this. Bill and his guys do a good job of kind of querying the employees or the former employees when they leave. You know, what can we do better? What are considerations? He sees this in the hiring process too, and dependent coverage or dependent help on health care is a big issue. It is for those who need family coverage, and we're going to look at that. I know it's probably a big ticket item. We don't even know how many employees at the city now. We couldn't just offer it to police. We'd have to offer it citywide, but we don't know how many people would take advantage of that. We don't know how much it would, therefore we don't know how much it would cost. So we're going to take a look and see, and just see what the bottom line is and see if we can offer that. It's money in the pocket
Great.
of employees that have to do it otherwise, and then there may be some families uninsured that would be insured if we offered that. If we couldn't do all of it, perhaps we could do a big percentage of it to help with the finances of our employees. So it's not out of line. Some cities do that, some do less than we do, and some do a good bit more. So.
Thanks for that, Mr. Manager, David. And I think, you know, a lot of times families don't go to the doctor or hospital to get the care that they need because they can't afford it. But to see our city step up, I think that's great, and we thank you, David, for really looking into this. That's great. And before we end our work session, I'd just like for our city clerk, if she would just come and sit in this chair for a moment. First of all, let me say, Ashley, that you certainly have been an asset to our city. You are a great city clerk, and you do whatever you can for the city, for our city manager, for our council members, and for staff. They call upon you at any time, and you are ready to jump right in. And I know that you won't be here early next week, Monday and Tuesday. I think you're going to be out of town. But May 1st through May 7th is proclaimed as Annual Professional Municipal Clerk Week. And we just wanted to recognize you this morning to thank you for the service that you rendered to us and to our city. And there's a proclamation that I would like to read. And we would get a group picture after we read this proclamation with Ashley. Office of the Mayor of Madison, Georgia. Proclamation. The 53rd Annual Professional Municipal Clerks Week, May 1st through May 7th, 2022. Whereas the office of the Professional Municipal Clerk, a time-honored and vital part of local government, exists throughout the world. And whereas the office of the Professional Municipal Clerk is the oldest among public servants. And whereas the office of the Professional Municipal Clerk provides the professional link between the citizens, the local governing bodies and agencies of government at other levels. And whereas the professional municipal clerks have pledged to be even mindful of their neutrality and partiality, rendering equal service to all. Whereas the professional municipal clerk serves as the information center on functions of local government and community. Whereas professional municipal clerks continually strive to improve the administration of the affairs of the office of the professional municipal clerk throughout participations in education programs, seminars, workshops, and the annual meeting of their state, provincial, county, and international professional organizations. Whereas it is most appropriate that we recognize the accomplishments of the office of the professional municipal clerk. Now therefore I, Fred Perriman, Mayor of the City of Madison, do recognize the week of May 1st through May 7th, 2022 as Professional Municipal Clerk Week, and further extend appreciation to our professional municipal clerk, Ashley Hawk, and to all professional municipal clerks for their vital service they perform and their exemplary dedication to the communities they represent. Dated this 29th day of April 2022, Fred Perriman, Mayor, attested by Ken Kosher, Deputy City Clerk, City of Madison, Georgia. If you would stand.
Take that.
Mr. Mayor, may I say one thing about Ashley? You cannot imagine how much time she saves the city and how much really great, high-quality work she does in things like administering the alcohol ordinance and responding to the many, many and often burdensome requests that we get for under the Freedom of Information Act. And I just really do appreciate what she does for the city.
Not the, we have about those last pages, is it on the right, on the last side there?
It's reading all the,
Okay, bye.
You say you're hot or cold? Oh,
There is
I got my jacket on. I'm feel good. Then there's our work session. If we could get a motion to go into executive session, to go into regular session, and then from regular session to executive session. If you need to take a quick minute, a quick break, before we come back into executive
Yeah.
session.
Mr. Mayor, you can just call the, called meeting to order, and then you can make the motion to go into executive
So
session.
we're gonna call our meeting to order. And, if anybody needs to take a quick break, they can.
And do we want to make the motion for executive session now, or when y'all come back?
We can do it when we come back, we'll take just a
Okay.
second.
All right.
We've got about only 15 minutes, Mr. Mayor. Is that going to be sufficient for where we're going to come?
What you read here, if nobody has to, it's not gonna take long. You read it.
Yeah, I've got about 15 more minutes. It should work.
It should work, yeah, get to hit the high.
I won't ask any questions.
We're gonna hold him to
Somebody put a clamp on his lips.
Is there gonna be additional business session?
Appreciate that.
We're gonna come back after, we come out, we gotta come back and do a review.
I mean, after I'm done, is there gonna be additional business? Okay, I'll take it.
Still around for all the review.
Oh, yeah, no.
You don't
I got that on my schedule.
Mr. Jimmy, did you have a chance to read any of that? Especially the letter that the engineer sent. He sent it late yesterday afternoon. Came from a young man named John Payne.
Yeah, I've got it, and I've got it on my computer. I haven't had a chance to.
That's fine. Just read it when you get a chance. This morning, I think what they're not going to make a hard recommendation, but I think when you look at all the evidence and when you look at where we are with that contractor, I don't see a way that in good conscience that I can award that job to them.
And I think that you need to follow your conscience. If it hits the fan, it hits the fan.
Well,
But
I
believe you.
seriously doubt that they gonna contest it. I honestly couldn't care less if they were low, if they're qualified, I can use them, new or not, but they don't even have a Georgia utility contractor's license. They're trying to get it right now. They're just not ready.
And that's what I think, that's why I was saying, look at the responsible bit.
Right,
thing.
right. Okay.
I'm putting these upside down in front of everybody right now.
We gotta make a decision one way or the other. Right. The second low is trying to lay out his work. We'll have no problem whatsoever with that. But just gotta figure out how we're gonna get those folks out. What we need to do. I doubt if they'll throw up a whole lot. They won't like it, but
Well, I hope not.
Did we sneak one in?
Yeah, get the watch.
Okay, yeah, you can get, who's going to make the motion and then pick up. Who, Eric, I thought Eric had to leave, but he's not done talking.
He wanted to know how long this might take. He
Do I?
has to leave.
Yeah, but if he has to leave,
Make any notes after, or will y'all make notes?
we're gonna make an announcement when they come out of it.
Do you make notes with you?
Yeah. So we have them out.
I have a question for you. I got the notice about voting for officers for the region.
It'll be on.
That's gonna be our regular meeting.
I know, but that's just one vote.
Just one vote.
Okay, good. We can't all just go at the end.
I thought she had it on the, she had
I
it.
didn't know how that works.
Are you okay?
Council's
No, I
got-
saw your post
Yeah.
on it.
So, in other words, there's really no competition.
Just out.
That's no
Nominations have been made.
How you doing? I'm good, okay. How you doing? Good.
Which is okay, I just
I had, I had a neighbor couple
And look,
down.
Don't
Couple
forget
weeks ago.
that
It's
our
like one of those
next
up here.
regular meeting at 4 o'clock.
The test positive.
Yeah.
So,
They had dinner outside.
This coming,
Never meets.
May 9th.
In my paranoid side,
get dressed.
I sheltered in place. I bet I'm 65, negative.
Yeah, almost has to go in.
But I didn't have any symptoms, it's been 2
4
weeks.
o'clock next,
Sounds like you're
the
good.
9th for the photo.
Good thing you ate outside.
Yeah, I was gonna send out an email.
Yeah, we had them over on the patio.
I think I'm wearing
Do we
pink.
do
The
like
guys were not attracted to
whites
probably
and
a
blues,
red,
greens and?
dark tie.
Yeah.
County
After all of this time,
Right.
careful as soon as I've
I keep,
Red tie?
I keep, yeah, because we're not really
Red
working
tie?
this. Most of us aren't working this.
Color's better than white or.
But I'm with you,
It'll be-
I made it this far, don't screw it up. At least,
Did y'all do the?
Louisiana.
if you do get it, you're probably
But
gonna get it.
Eric has to leave, we just, we just sit with people just for a moment and.
I turned something upside down that I was passing out before we went into, Florida.
Yeah.
Okay, if we could get a motion to go into executive session, to leave regular, go into executive.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, show of hands. Opposed is none. Okay.